everyone, welcome in. Thank you for joining me. My name is Marlene and I am with A Room to Bloom. So, I just received a download on a message, but I'm just feeling like I'm going to hold off on that because I have others that have been coming in. But I've also been just kind of sitting with some things for a while. So today's message is going to be something that you may have experienced looking out. You may have experienced it looking in, if you will. But it's not. It's a subject that's a little bit temperamental, if you will. But this is the title of it. What has gotten into you? Now, the reason that this came up is because of an experience that I was having recently with someone, and it's like those words came out of my mouth, and what was interesting is the response to was, I don't know. The person said they didn't know. Now, in this same example, so what does that mean? When do people speak those words? What has gotten into you? When we notice behavioral changes in someone, whatever that is, it can be emotional changes, but a lot of times it can be behavioral changes. So somebody maybe isn't behaving the way that you always knew them to kind of behave. Well, on our spiritual journey, we'll notice that happen more because people are sort of learning about the programming or the programs that one grew up with. And instead of being told the way it is and what you should do and the way it should be and all of this, people start having their own experiences and coming to their own conclusions, if you will. And maybe not conclusions yet, but are having various experiences. So, on my journey, I have noticed this with a multitude of people where they were not themselves. They were not who they had always been in my experience with them. Like I was seeing character changes. Okay. So that happens when, one, you are tapping into your own spiritual journey. You're beginning to see through the veil, to see through masks, to see what others are, it's maybe not there intentionally, maybe hiding something, but they feel very exposed in your presence or in your energy, if you will. And it's not that you're running around trying to do that. It's just that you see into people deeper. You feel energy. You know what you're not being told. And so this idea of what has gotten into you, asking someone that question, it does also call us, of course, to ask ourselves that question. How many times along our own journey have we asked ourselves that question or said the comment, I don't know what's gotten into me, right? Because of it could be habits you picked up or patterns or whatever it is. Think about when a person gets a bug, if you will. Well, that what got into them was something that was potentially contagious, right? Another thing that gets into someone would be someone whispering in someone's ear certain things. Now, the ears, the eyes, our mouth is like they are windows to our soul, if you will, right? So we really have to check in with ourselves on a regular basis of what are we letting in, as far as what has got, when you say what has gotten into me, okay, you have to like do a self check and say, have I been like listening to someone where at first maybe I wasn't myself, maybe I was angry or frustrated and I went, yeah, right, and but then as time continued on, you're like, yeah, maybe I kind of, was upset before, but this isn't a continual pattern that I want to go down. Or maybe you rode that for a while, but then it's like, um, you recognize that you don't really feel like your most authentic self because something else has gotten into you. You've taken something in some form or manner. Now, that can be television, uh, whatever way we are taking in media. What are we listening to? What lyrics are we listening to? What actual kind of music are we listening to if it isn't lyrics? What do we listen to as far as just what's going on in and on around our home or our family, for instance? So, say for instance, your parents and you just have something going on in your life, but the kids are in the other room. You think that they're not picking up on your stuff, but they are, right? You're not aware of it, but so all of a sudden a child has a shift in behavior because they actually did hear a conversation that you didn't think that they would, or they pick up on patterns, or they pick up on whatever that is else is, right? um think about, again, taking things in. So what does someone take in the form of medications? What has gotten into you? um when people talk about uppers or downers, like for example, right, does it uh, raise you up or calm you down if you're taking medications? The same thing with like alcohol or other things. It could be the same with pop, right? Pop has caffeine, not all of it, but you know what I'm saying. Like, uh, if you're drinking caffeinated pop, what does it do? It has a sugar lift for a while. Same with a candy bar, right? Um, and so we are called to take a look at what has gotten into us for our own benefit in so many ways: mind, body, and spirit. If we're taking medications, do they affect our mind? How are they affecting our body, especially if we're taking things that slow us down and we become lethargic, right? So a person could gain weight. If someone's taking other things, they could lose weight, right? To an unhealthy level, either direction. Our spirit, what do we take in? Do we come home from work and numb out and maybe turn on the television because we're just tired and we don't have the energy to do much, but so there's the channel and it just happens to land on one? Maybe it's not your thing, but you don't really, you're just tired. You're just like, whatever. You're just there. You're not being really, really present with it. Like, is this good for my spirit? Is this good for my soul? Is this getting into me, right? And or take the words, is this getting to me, right? It is getting to you, and subconsciously it's getting into you, but subconsciously, is it getting to you? um, so even though you might feel like you're pretty tired and you're not taking it in, it's actually in that time where you might be taking in certain things more than you might expect. So we can look to the outside of ourself for examples in this. Anytime, if you've ever gone out with someone and you've known their behavior for however long, and then maybe there are drinks and behaviors start to shift. Some slightly, some not so slightly. Some are more dramatic, some are silly, some are angry, right? So there's all this type of thing, but there is even a whole nother level to this, because when we lower our vibration, or when our vibration is lower, we can have spirit that attaches to one's self. Now, if you keep feeding that spirit, that lower vibrating spirit, it will stick around. But if you work to get past it, right? If you let possibly some vices go, and see if you start feeling better, what you might notice is that, wow, you didn't even realize how heavy you felt because you were in a pattern, you were in a loop, you kept doing the same old thing. But once you regained strength and said no more, you started feeling better, because when you do not feed the spirit of something, it will leave you, right? So, like in the Bible, where it talks about demons, attached to people for certain, lengths of time, can be a long time, because somebody get caught in a loop of a lower vibrating spirit, right? So this is about shifting the energy and doing it as soon as possible, to something that makes you feel good. If you are watching or have something on the television, for instance, that is Debbie Downer news, or scary shows, this type of thing, that's bringing in stuff into your home, it's like self-recognizing and saying no more, right? The other thing that we need to be really mindful of is we might be watching a particular television show, and that show seems to resonate with our spirit. But then on come these commercials that are very aggressive. And so it is part of that deciding as well, and to be aware of. And even like in a family situation and or with kids, possibly pre-recording things if you're going to do that, and make sure you fast forward through anything like that, so that it is not coming in, because televisions are portals, mirrors are portals. And so being aware of this type of thing, anytime you're with someone and you think, what has gotten into you, that also it's a question for ourself, to reflect on ourself. It's not just pointing the finger out at someone else, but it causes us to ask ourselves, what has gotten into me? What have I let into my awareness? What comes into my home? What do I have on my television? What have I been listening to? What am I watching, right? What is around me via conversations and or energy? And do I just kind of go in going, I see it, whatever, not realizing how much it's taking one down. Now, the other example that I would give you is if you've ever had a sinus infection, and just say you just deal with it for a really long time, and you're like, finally you get to a point where you're just like, I just have to get some help to deal with this. And so you go in and you get medication or whatever that is to help clear it. And all of a sudden you start feeling better, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how long I wasn't feeling that great. This is the same type of situation. So it calls us to do self-checks regularly and say, where am I at? How am I feeling? And what have I been allowing in, and or what has gotten into me? Then you can also look at clearing that or shifting the vibration, right? It can start with also releasing things from your home, right? Say, for example, even books that are heavy, dark, It's like, no, I'm going to release this. I, don't want this in my home. I went through space where I released all black clothing. I don't own any black clothing, right? It's like a mentality. And so it's like, no, I'm choosing brighter, lighter, um, things that feel more vibrant and fun for my energy. And so it's another thing, doing a self check. What kind of colors have you been wearing regularly will also show you how you're feeling, right? And so making a conscious choice to wear lighter, brighter clothing can help you to clear things. Okay, so we are going to start with a deck here called Relationships Oracle. I definitely will use the guidebook. This is a sacred geometry of relationships. So let's see what wants to step through here. Still going to keep in mind what has gotten into you is the general question. Okay, so the first chakra has to do with your basic needs. It is the root chakra, okay? It is represented by the color red, all right? So the energy of the root chakra supports our sense of safety in a physical world, and it reminds us to enjoy our physical body. So the root chakra, if someone says, what has gotten into you, this could have something to do with your basic needs. So maybe your behavior has changed because you've been concerned about your basic needs. It could also be the opposite. If you have had an overabundance of things, right? It calls us to look at possibly an overabundance of materialism, this type of thing. So let's say you're out shopping a lot and somebody says, what has gotten into you? Can you hear my little one? Anyway, if something has gotten into you, maybe you're going shopping a lot and you're not sure. So this idea, sorry, come here, honey. With this idea of what are you feeding, right? What are you feeding? And what you feed or give energy to, it expands. So if you don't want to feed that habit of like over shopping, then it's about shifting your energy. Okay. The next one that we have is kindness. The energy of kindness reminds us to be considerate and wise in our interactions with others and ourselves, and to find the root of our love through our connection to Source. So in this example, for me to ask that person that, because it comes to a point where you observe and you watch and you pay attention. And then it's like the question comes up so that it is considered, right? Did I do that, ask that in a condescending way? Did fear rise up because it's like I see behavioral shifts or changes? So, that's a self check-in, I guess. But again, if you are asking somebody what has gotten into you, moving from a place of kindness and also checking in with the self. What has gotten, if someone says, what has gotten into me, right? Be kind and wise in your interactions with others and yourself, right? Be gentle. The green represents our heart chakra. The blue is our throat chakra. So really asking ourselves the questions and checking in with our own heart. The next one is freedom. So the energy of freedom supports our sense of limitless possibility and potential, boundless expression, and bold exploration. Maybe you recognize someone not wanting to be committed to things, right now, right? Whatever that is, whether it is a 9 to 5 job, a particular place or city or relationship, right? Wanting freedom, where before maybe they felt like having a relationship and all that was kind of a basic needs thing. They maybe felt like that, having their housing um, or home solid or whatever that. But now all of a sudden they might be feeling a need for freedom from the programming. What do we do in our life, right? We go to school, meet someone, get married, have kids, right? So this type of programming. But so you might recognize that someone is deviating from what we might consider patterning, right? In our human experience. Someone who is moving to the beat of their own drum, if you will. And maybe you can't totally understand it, right? Maybe it doesn't resonate with you because you're kind of moving to the beat of your drum, and your drum could be in sync with society's drum. But then you have somebody else who's, if you want to say, deviating from the standard protocol, right? It just might be that they are um, they want to have the sense of limitless possibility and potential and be able to express themselves boundlessly, right? With bold exploration as well. Okay, on the bottom of the deck, yes, we have transformation, right? So what has gotten into someone? You may recognize them going through a transformation even before they do, right? They're going through something. The energy of transformation supports our ability to gracefully throw through times of transition, allowing the old to make room for the new, right? So things will fall away. What once used to feel like the norm or seem like the norm is no longer working for someone. And so there is a period of transformation. Think about when you clean out your closet, for example, and you take the time and you really go through it and you're like, yeah, this stuff has been in here for a long time. Those are things that we can look at on the physical world, right? In our physical experience. But when we have transformation taking place on the inside, you may not be able to touch it, but that doesn't mean that things are not still being transformed nonetheless, right? That there are things that are falling away emotionally, mentally, yeah, spiritually, etc., that used to work with someone, but it's no longer working that way. There's a transformation that is taking place, and this is the subconscious. In the subconscious. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go a little bit further. I'd like to see what chakras are ready to step forth with messages here for you. It's interesting that the first card here is the first chakra, so let's see what comes up. Okay, this is the fourth chakra, and it speaks of the heart chakra, which I said under kindness with that color, it is represented by the color green. It says, this speaks of unconditional love, right? So again, asking someone, what has gotten into you? Our ego might get snappy, which mine might have the other day. But where does that come from? Fear, concern, worry about another person, right? But it asks us to step into a space of unconditional love, to be working from our heart center, not our ego, right? I allow myself to be open to giving and receiving love without fear or rejection. I give without expecting recognition or acknowledgement in return. When I am loving to others, I am helping bring out the innate love within them so they also feel uplifted, worthy, and cared for. I love myself the way I am, not the way I was or could be, and I extend this love to others. I teach others how to love and respect me by how I love and respect myself, right? So, these are things that come up even though I'm here doing these videos, right? Still have triggers that come up. And when a trigger comes up, it's just like a mirror that says this is something to work on, right? Okay, under kindness, we have the 6th chakra, which is the third eye chakra. It's represented by the color purple, and it speaks about an inner knowing. I trust my inner knowing, and I am at peace with myself. I create more moments of stillness and silence, and I listen for the truth. I am open to connecting with and listening to my gut, my heart's feelings, and I don't override them with my mind's logic. I practice meditation, prayer, and contemplation. So, like in my case, it just like, I just had to sit with the other stuff that I was feeling for a while, and then this is sort of like, was it a hindsight situation, or do we continue to work on that? That's why it's called a practice, right? I create more moments of stillness and silence, and I listen for the truth. Still being kind to ourselves and others. Okay, under freedom, again, we have the 6th chakra, the third eye chakra again, and it speaks of intuitive perception. I know that what my intuitive senses tell me are true. I open myself to the truth that is within and around me, and I know that it is there for me to receive. I practice developing my intuition, and I know that it is a major aspect of who I am. In the stillness and silence of meditation and contemplation, I will experience and know the truth. And this falls under the freedom card, right? The freedom to be still, to be silence, and to listen for the truth, right? On the bottom of the deck, another 6th chakra. So definitely something going on with the intuition here. This speaks of mindfulness. I am aware of my thoughts, and I ask myself, are they uplifting and are they true? I do this because I know that my thoughts significantly affect my mental, emotional, and physical health. And because I know that my body believes everything that I believe, right? So it will manifest in our body if we're thinking certain thoughts, right? It says, I am not in control of all situations that come my way, nor am I in control of what others do and say. However, I do have free will as to how I respond, right? I choose to respond to all situations from an enlightened position rather than just reacting. And see, that's what happened. Yeah, I reacted. Did I overreact? I wouldn't say I overreacted, but I definitely think I was reacting. I was being reactive because of the situation. Okay. We're going to see what else comes up here with Mind Info Oracle cards. One moment here. All right. Patience. These go so hand in hand because it's like the first chakra is kind of about basic needs, having unconditional love from our heart chakra, and having patience. You're being asked to practice patience right now. It isn't easy to do this, but you're strong, and there is a reason why things aren't aligning in the way that you want them to at this moment. Have patience. It will eventually work out, right? So just have patience. Okay, what else do we have under kindness in the 6th chakra? Bravery. Okay. And that was the inner knowing card. I trust my inner knowing. So it says, you're being asked to make a tough decision that you have been putting off because of fear, which is understandable. But you do have the strength and bravery to make this decision, and you will feel so much lighter when you do, right? When you do. Trust your inner knowing in a situation, but be kind to yourself and to others. Okay, the next one that we have here under freedom and intuitive perception is receive. So here we have a hand in which something is going into the hand. You're being asked to be open to receiving universal gifts. These could come in the form of love, money, compliments, healing energy, and universal wisdom. Know that you're worthy of these gifts and open up to them. On the bottom of the deck, we have resolution. Now remember that we had transformation and we had mindfulness. So resolution says, whatever it is that you have been struggling with is about to be resolved. Remember that resolutions don't always happen in the way that we hope or want, but being able to move forward and start fresh always brings relief. Yeah, I'm gonna, because I was feeling guided to go like 3 deep here. So the next one is ask for help. Ask for help. You're being asked to request help from another. You don't need to deal with this issue alone. There are many people who want to help you, but it is up to you to bravely ask for their support. It's a sign of strength to reach out. Do that today. And then the next one that we have is reassess. I'm not going to look anymore because that's what ends up happening. Time to reassess a situation, to check things off. You're being asked to take stock of your life and to let go of anything or anyone that no longer makes you happy. Notice who and what bring you joy and who and what don't. It is time for some life cleanup. Resolution coming to a situation, ask for help, and reassess a situation. Okay. Then we are going to go ahead and go to a deck here called Divine Directions. Well, actually, let's take daily guidance from the angels first. Under the first chakra, the heart chakra, and patience, we have let your past go. Let your past go. The burden of carting your past around has made you weary, dear one. It is time to set this burden down. Keep only the lessons and the love and leave everything else behind. You don't want it or need it, and it is now gone, right? Let the past go. Which could have something to do with like your basic needs, where you maybe were feeling impatient, where you weren't operating from your heart center. Okay, the next one that we have is a blessing in disguise. Yeah, so here we have kindness, your inner knowing, and bravery. Again, where you're being asked to make a tough decision, there's a blessing in disguise. And even though this angel looks a little dismayed, this is the message. What appears to be a problem is actually part of your answered prayer. You'll understand the reasons behind your present situation as everything resolves. Trust in heaven's protection and infinite wisdom to answer your prayer in the best way, right? Answer your prayer in the best way. Okay, and the next one we have is focus on service. So this falls under the freedom, the intuitive perception, and receive, right? You're being asked to open up to receive universal gifts. Focus on service. Your soul desires only to joyfully serve and to swim in a constant stream of bliss. The stream continuously feeds you everything you need. Put your entire focus upon staying in the stream of giving and receiving, into every situation in all that you do, giving and receiving, right? Having the freedom to give and receive. It keeps the centers of the chi energy flowing, right? Where there is not blockages. On the bottom of the deck, we are being asked to listen. Asked to listen. Quiet your mind, beloved one, and listen to our gentle reassurance that everything has been taken care of. Stay in a quiet and receptive state without worrying about the exact nature of your desire's manifestation. The quiet mind and body hears us quickly and clearly. This is our request to you. Listen. All right. So now we're going to tap into some of these divine direction messages. Oh, so, straightening out something that might feel messy. Okay, first card is friends. Spend more time with your friends. Share your thoughts with someone who understands you. Okay, then we have ask. That came up before about asking for help. It's okay to ask for help. It is okay to ask for help. It is not a sign of weakness. You don't have to do this alone to make this decision. You'll feel much lighter when you do ask for help, right? Again, a blessing in disguise. Ask for help. Decide. Under the freedom, the intuitive perception, the receiving, and the focusing on service, we have decide. It is time for you to make a decision. Call upon your spirit guides for help. Okay, on the bottom of the deck, we have abundance. And it says, great news is heading your way. Abundance is coming to you in many forms, which I find that wonderful, right? With this and just having patience in this situation. Meditate, reconnect with your inner spirit. Walk, practice yoga, meditate, or listen to music. And then the last one here is heal. You have a natural gift for healing through your hands, your words, or your actions. So helping others at this time, that could be the service, right, that you're offering. I have goosebumps. Okay, so that is the message for today. I do want to say thank you. Again, this whole reading was kind of around the idea of what has gotten into you. If you've gotten yourself in a situation, you're being called to let your past go, to talk with your friends, to have bravery, to ask for help, to understand that there is a blessing in disguise here, to be kind to yourself and others. Yes, whatever's been going on, it might be because you want freedom, but trust your intuitive perception, receive and focus on service. It is time for you to make a decision. Call on your spirit guides for help. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day. Take care.